Hello YouTube, FilmBuff06 here, coming your way with just a very short and very brief review of Disney's The Absent-Minded Professor, which was released in 1961, was based on a short story titled A Situation of Gravity by Samuel W. Taylor, and was directed by Robert Stevenson, who also went on to direct Mary Poppins and Bedknobs and Broomsticks for the studio. They also made a somewhat decent sequel to this film a couple of years later, titled Son of Flubber, which featured pretty much the same cast as this, as well as a remake of this film in 1997, simply titled Flubber, which featured Robin Williams in the lead role. Very briefly, the story of this film is centered on a Medfield College chemistry professor named Ned Brainerd, played by Fred MacMurray, who's better known for his role alongside Barbara Stanwyck in the 1944 film noir Double Indemnity, who gets so completely caught up with his work that he ends up forgetting to show up for his weddings to his fiancée, Betsy, played by Nancy Olson, who, by the way, started out with a role as William Holden's love interest in the 1950 Billy Wilder classic Sunset Boulevard twice. Ned ends up missing his wedding for the third time when one of his latest inventions blows up in his face. When he discovers that he has been able to create a special substance that defies all gravity and gains energy every time it strikes a hard surface, which he then calls flying rubber or flubber, he decides that it is the perfect money-making scheme to save the college from closure by this corrupt businessman named Alonzo Hawke, played by Keenan Wynn. Speaking of which, three generations of the Wynn family appear in this film, as well as the sequel. Keenan Wynn, of course, his son, Ned Wynn, as well as Keenan's father, Ed Wynn, who is best known for his roles in Mary Poppins and Alice in Wonderland, where he voiced the Mad Hatter. Now, what did I think of The Absent-Minded Professor? Well, I don't really have an awful lot to say about this film. There is nothing really in this film for me to review in depth. But in a nutshell, I think it's quite decent, actually. It's not really the classic it otherwise could have been, but if you compare it to the 1997 remake, is the marginally superior film. Oh, not the remake. I mean, the remake may be a bad one, but in my eyes, it's still a guilty pleasure, and I'll get into more on that when I actually review Flubber in the future. But anyway, yes, the story is quite silly, implausible, and ridiculous. Yes, the characters and script are not very well developed. Yes, Robert Stevenson's direction of this film is quite weak compared to the fantastic work he did on Mary Poppins. Yes, the acting isn't all that great, perhaps except for Fred MacMurray, who makes a very likeable lead in this. Yes, the special effects look a bit dated nowadays. Yes, the music is okay, but nothing that remarkable. Yes, the film seems to drag at times. And yes, the laughs aren't quite as consistent as they should be. But do you know what I like about this film? Is that there is a certain, charm, innocent charm, and sense of, innocent fun there. As if the makers know that this whole film is shit and nothing that special, harmless shit, and want the audience to somewhat have a fun and entertaining time at the cinema, regardless of how crappy it may be. Sort of a guilty pleasure film, sort of like a guilty pleasure film in a way. With that said, I was pretty entertained by this film by first viewing, but I seriously wouldn't really recommend this film to you to watch more than once. It's just one of those films that you would watch on a lazy Sunday afternoon when it is raining and there is nothing interesting on TV. Yeah, it's in terms of Disney live action films, this is one of the more decently entertaining ones, in my opinion. In conclusion, my rating for The Absent-Minded Professor is going to be a 6 out of 10. Now, feel free to leave a comment in the section below and let me know your thoughts on The Absent-Minded Professor. Oh, and by the way, this is probably one of the shortest movie reviews I've ever done on this channel. Plus, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until my next video, which is going to be a review of Disney's Bedknobs and Broomsticks from 1971. Do take care, everyone, and goodbye.